thought it was very timely now to talk about self-compassion this session because there's so much going on in the world that is really, really stressful, both in the country and in our lives and at work, but also in the world. So the question is, how do we deal with suffering? What do we do about suffering? So let me know if that resonates. And I thought we would do self-compassion meditation today. And self-compassion helps us become more compassionate towards others. So the secret I'm going to share with you today is that feeling bad about anything doesn't really get us anywhere. Feeling bad about ourselves doesn't help us. Just kind of sitting there and suffering over the state of the world, it's normal to have an emotional reaction and sometimes for our heart to break. But where I want to put the focus today is wishing well for the world, so that you respond not with suffering because the world is suffering, but with wishing well and letting it fuel your compassionate energy, fuel your ability to care, fuel your ability to do positive things. So compassion is constantly wishing for the long-term well-being of yourself and of others. And self-compassion is acting in a way that does serve your long-term well-being. So you're on the world's side. You want to do as much as possible that's positive. And I hope that these recent events strengthen your commitment to not causing harm, to causing peace just in your immediate surroundings, right? Because we have divisive speech. We gossip about people. We treat people against each other. There's all kinds of things our egos do that are also divisive. So maybe take these things happening in the world that are so divisive and so painful and see where on a smaller scale do I create war around me and end those wars first, and let it be something that you do in honor of what's happening in the world. So let's define self-compassion, because I think it's important to start with definitions. Self-compassion is being aware of your own suffering. So you're not like, oh, no, the situation in the Middle East isn't affecting me at all. I'm fine. Like, it's not saying you're fine when you're not fine. So being aware of what you're feeling, being aware of your suffering. And then that's part one, awareness, mindfulness. Part two is realizing that every single experience you have connects you to other beings. So if you feel heartbreak over the Middle East, others probably do too. Every experience you have, it's not like you're the only one having it. There's no feeling that's difficult that you've ever had that countless others haven't also experienced. So everything that you experience, positive or negative, actually brings you closer to humanity. Because it's being isolated in our suffering that's often more difficult than the suffering itself. It's feeling alone in your suffering that's more difficult than the suffering. So step one, awareness that yes, I'm suffering. This is a moment of suffering. Step two, with every breath you take, you're connected. With every emotion you feel, you're connected. With every mistake you make, that's stupid, but you made it, you're also connected, because there's no stupid mistake you've made that millions of other people haven't also made in a very similar way as you. So everything that ever happens connects you. It doesn't isolate you. The two most psychologically harmful things are vacillating self-worth, when your self-worth just goes up and down depending on if people approve or disapprove of you, and feeling isolated in your suffering. So self-compassion kind of works with both of those, that we're in this together and you are infinitely worthy no matter what, no matter what happens on the outside. Like if I were to put a newborn in a basket on the floor, that newborn is worthy of everything, even if the newborn hasn't done anything yet, right? So are you, no matter how many mistakes you've made. So mindfulness, common humanity, and then self-kindness. So the third step is you offer yourself self-kindness. You offer yourself understanding. You act in a way that supports your thriving. You treat yourself with real warmth. And meditation helps with a lot with the self-kindness piece. So part of self-compassion is always acting according to your deepest intentions, as opposed to on autopilot. So reaction to the Middle East on autopilot is like eating a bag of chips and numbing yourself with reality TV, right? That's like a perfectly normal reaction to numb yourself. Compassionate reaction, setting a commitment to ending every war inside yourself and that you create in your family, in your workplace, ending all those wars first, and maybe doing something positive. You can take one step to support someone in the Middle East now, kind of taking a positive step socially, politically, but setting the intention to not create harm. That would be a way to open-heartedly be with the situation, but also be with it compassionately in a way that actually engages as opposed to disconnects. Put a exclamation point in the chat if you've noticed that sometimes when something difficult happens, you just want to disconnect. You just want to not deal with it. Yeah. I think the normal reaction when we don't like something is ignore it or beat it up. Like run away from it, ignore it, avoid it, or beat it up. And neither of those are very well adapted to our world. They're very well adapted to the tiger in the bushes, run from the tiger or fight the tiger. They're not adapted to all those emotional challenges that we face in our day and time. I want to share my favorite self-compassion study with you. It's called the donut study. It was done at Duke a few years ago, and it really puts self-compassion into perspective. This is from scientist Mark Leary, and it studied dieting and self-compassion. So women who were trying to lose weight were brought into the lab, and then they didn't know what they had to do, but in the name of science, they were asked to eat a donut. And these are women who are dieting. So they have to eat a big donut. And then afterwards, they were asked to drink a full glass of water. And I quote the study, so that the women feel uncomfortably full. So then all the women eat the donut, all the women drink the glass of water, and then half the women are led into a room with lots of candy around. And they're said, you can eat as much candy as you want. And the science, this is called the what the hell effect. Like, I already blew my diet. What the hell? I can just keep eating candy. Or like, they quote me like, there's war in the Middle East. What the hell if I just do this stupid thing because the war is so much worse? Like, there's the what the hell effect psychologically. Like, things are already bad. Let me just keep making them worse. And the women were told, like, the people participating in the study in the moment never usually know what the study is about. So they can't skew the results. So the women were told we're trying to do research on how this candy tastes after the donut. So just eat enough, eat as much as you need to tell us how, like, the taster receptors, how the sensory perception is, how it tastes after the donut. Eat as much as you like to just really be able to gauge how this candy tastes. And the women on average ate 70 grams of candy. This is where this becomes relevant to self-compassion. There was another group of women, same scenario, dieting women, asked to eat the donut, asked to drink the glass of water, and brought into the room with the candy. But before they entered the room, they received a message of self-compassion from the scientist. So they were told 3 things. By the way, we noticed some people feel guilty about eating that donut, and you might too. Then the second thing they were told is, we just want to remind you that everyone indulges sometimes. And 3, we want to encourage you to not be too hard on yourself. The women then went into the other room, and any guesses how much candy they ate? They were still told, like, just eat some candy so you can rate the candy, how it tastes after the donut. But whereas on average, the previous group ate 70 grams of candy, this group ate only 28 grams of candy. So much less, significant result. They ate 65% less after hearing a message of self-compassion. So let's go back to those 3 phrases and deconstruct them with our scientific mind, because they were very well put together. By the way, we noticed some people feel guilty about eating that donut, and you might too. That's mindfulness. That's awareness. That's awareness of how you're feeling right now. Then we just want to remind you that everyone indulges sometimes. That's common humanity. It's step 2 of self-compassion. You're not the only one who indulges. We're in this together. And then 3, we want to encourage you to not be too hard on yourselves. That's self-kindness, right? That's coaching yourself to, that's coaching yourself toward being kind to yourself, like not being hard on yourself. So this was a totally subliminal, by the way, message that the researchers just casually gave the participants. But imagine if you were giving that message to yourself. How much more powerful would it be if, when you are in crisis, when the world is in crisis, when you are suffering, when others are suffering, how powerful would it be if you gave those messages of self-compassion to yourself? So that will be your informal homework for the week. See if, as much as possible, you can give yourself messages that has that aspect of mindfulness, common humanity, and self-kindness. The mindfulness is, it can be as simple as, this is a moment of suffering. Right now I'm suffering. Right now I'm at a loss of what to even do or feel. Right now I just feel like sobbing. Right now I feel awful and I want peace on earth and I want all beings to be protected, whatever it is that you're feeling. Or I feel numb. I feel paralyzed. That's step 1. Step 2, there are countless other people who feel the same way right now. And by being with my emotions, I'll also be able to be there for their emotions. when our paths cross. So I'm going to be present for my emotions because it connects me to other people and it connects me to life. Life is 1,000 joys and 1,000 sorrows. Life has so much in it that's different, that's varied. So it's not like when I'm happy, that's life. When I'm unhappy, that's not life. We need as much happiness as unhappiness to grow. We need unhappiness and some level of stress to grow and to be strong. So know that it is part of life. It's part of common humanity. And it's not like you did something wrong with your life. I think the American view is if I feel any negative emotions or if I feel any discomfort, there's this Disneyfication, as I like to call it, of life, or like Instagrammable version of life, where it should only have the positive, and where we think, if I make all the right choices, if I study hard in school, if I do well in college, if I play sports, if I know all the right hacks and read the right books, I'll never feel discomfort and suffering will not be able to penetrate the successful bubble I've built. That's a total cognitive error. It doesn't work that way. That is not true. There will always be suffering. Even if you make the best decisions and you meditate daily, there's still going to be suffering in life. So don't feel like I did something wrong. I'm unworthy. If I'm suffering, I did something wrong. If you're suffering, it means you're a living, breathing human being. Just like if you make mistakes, what it means is that you're a living, breathing human being. That's all it means. So try this message of, this is a moment of suffering. Whatever suffering I have is a part of life. And then you can end with a self-kindness, like, may I be kind to myself? Let me take some 4-7-8 breaths. May I be patient with myself? May I give myself compassion? What would it look like right now if I really love myself? What would that be? Or you can even ask the question, what can I do right now that my future self will thank me for? What can I do right now that my future self will thank me for? So eating a whole pizza, will the version of you in 3 hours be grateful for that? Probably not. Splurging on like spending money you don't have to make yourself feel better through shopping, will yourself in a week be happy? Probably not. Going for a jog, will your future self be happy? Probably. Taking a hot bath, will your future self be happy? Probably. Calling up your supportive, kind friend and saying, hey, this is really difficult for me right now. What do you think? Yes, all of those are self-compassionate. So when you pose the question, will my future self thank me for this? Or is this good for my long-term well-being? That's a question of self-kindness. What do I want in the moment is not usually a question of self-kindness. I remember when I just moved to New York City, I was in my early 20s. I just moved to New York City. And there were a lot that I couldn't eat pizza because I was reacting to the tomatoes. I was reacting to the gluten, and dairy was bad for me. So I was in a very sensitive place in my body. And I like moving to New York was hard, and it's a hard city. And I was building compassion programs for all these organizations, and I was kind of going from place to place. The only thing I wanted when I was tired or stressed was pizza. I would like look at all those pizza places. The only thing my brain would tell me that I wanted was the pizza. Like, get the pizza by the slice. It's only $1.50. It's only $2. Get it, eat it now. So that's the self-indulgence part. When we're suffering, the mind wants to distract you from your current suffering, and it finds the quickest way. The quickest way to distract you from your current suffering is to add on a different version of suffering, to add on another flavor of suffering. So this is kind of funny because like when you're already suffering, you're much more likely to do something else, something random that's different. That's a different mode of suffering. That's the self-indulgence part. Don't fall into that trap. Ask yourself, what's good for my long-term well-being, and will my future self thank me for this? And especially now, again, not only is the economy in an unstable place, not only is there Russia-Ukraine war, there's trouble in the Middle East. There's so much going on. We all know people who are affected. We all know people affected personally. Don't let that be a reason for you to add more suffering to your life. Be with this suffering. Don't create other suffering as a defense mechanism to be with this suffering is, I think, the most important thing to keep in mind now. Rather, let it point you towards self-compassion and toward compassion. I'm suffering. How can I be kind? The world is suffering. How can I be kind to the world? So let's get back to the research. Research has been done on self-compassion on populations ages 14 to 83, and in all kinds of countries in United States, England, Belgium, Netherlands, Thailand, Taiwan, Korea, Turkey. It's been done everywhere. And overall, the research suggests that more self-compassion leads to less anxiety, less stress, less rumination, less depression, much less fear of failure. Because usually we're afraid to try and fail because we're afraid of the voice in our heads. If the voice in your head is supportive, we're not afraid to try and even fail. It leads to less body shame. It eases PTSD. And it gives us more life satisfaction. It gives us more sense of being connected. So you might think, oh, if I'm self-compassionate, will I be egoistic? Will I connect? It actually gives us more connection, not less connection. It gives us more authenticity, more freedom to be authentic, more resilience, more personal growth, more happiness, and more optimism. So those are the benefits of self-compassion. And I just want to review some basic ways you can practice self-compassion on the go anytime. One way, even if you feel like you don't have time to practice self-compassion, is to do things you already do, but with the intention of being self-compassionate. So like you brush your teeth every morning. Brush your teeth with the intention of self-compassion. You eat something every day. Eat with the intention, like, let me nurture my body. Go to sleep early with the intention of self-compassion. Do things that you already do, but add the self-compassion intention there, and it will feel different. It will have a different effect. It will feel nurturing. So that's one way you can always practice self-compassion. Deep breaths are so helpful. So let's just take a 4-7-8 breath together now. So you get to practice it right now. We're going to inhale for 4, hold for 7, breathe out through the mouth for 8. So inhaling for 1, 2, 3, 4, hold the breath for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale out through the mouth for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And let's do that 2 more times for triple the self-compassion. Inhaling for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale out through the mouth for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Last breath in the sleigh. Take the fullest breath you've taken all day for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhaling out through the mouth for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's your act of self-compassion. And then another aspect of self-compassion is meditation. Actually meditating on self-compassion. And we'll do a self-compassion meditation together shortly. I just want to share a couple of poems with you because I find that poetry is a really good way to access this wisdom. And the main idea of self-compassion is that you are not your self-critical thoughts. Your self-critical thoughts, it's not really you. It's just like a record that plays in our mind constantly, and it plays in everyone else's mind constantly too. And it's the same in my mind and in your mind. And like the guy next door is the same in his mind. The person on the street is the same in their mind. So it's just a record that plays that is not actually authentic to you and who you are. You are your intentions. You are your creativity. You are not your inner critic. So I want to read you a poem that expresses this well. This is by Ram Dass and Paul Gordon. Our thoughts are always happening, much like leaves floating down a stream. If you're standing by a river and a leaf floats by, you have your choice of following the leaf with your eye or keeping your attention fixed in front of you. The leaf floats out of your line of vision, another leaf enters and floats by. But as we stand on the bank of the river and these leaves float by, there's no confusion as to whether or not we are the leaves. Similarly, it turns out that there's a place in our minds from which we can watch our mental images go by. We aren't our thoughts any more than we are the leaves. So basically, this poem is saying that what we think, our thoughts, are something that we can observe. Our thoughts are something that we can observe just like leaves. So your thoughts that create drama, that create catastrophes, that want to be mean to you, they're not the word of truth. Just like if you watch a leaf, you are not a leaf. So this distance, it's called developing a healthy relationship with your mind. You and your mind need to have boundaries. You and your inner critic, it's very important to have boundaries in that relationship, just like in any relationship. So the mind will say a lot of stories like, oh, that person hates me, or they're doing it on purpose, or the mind is a drama queen. The mind will take everything personally. the ego will take everything personally. So the mind will build all these stories that are maximally catastrophic. Your body reacts to those stories, and that creates more stress. As it creates more stress, you act with less wisdom and authenticity because your thinking gets very linear when you're stressed. So bottom line, some stories are just stories. And we believe in a story that we ourselves have constructed using this great ability of language that we have, and we mistake this content with reality. But reality is much more complicated than one word or one dramatic thought or one story. Reality is many, many stories. Buddhism has this great teaching that the truth starts with two. The truth can never come from the mouth of one person. The truth is always in dialogue between at least two people. So the truth is always in a multiplicity of perspectives. The truth is what happens between two people, and the truth is something that happens in a moment. There's no like one universal truth that holds for every moment, every situation, because the truth is something that's the result of dialogue. So the truth can't be one word or even one phrase or even two words. So when you catch yourself having those negative self-judgments, notice that those thoughts are not you, and those thoughts don't necessarily express reality. So I'm going to share a second poem, and I think it really goes to this point. This is from female poet Wisława Szymborska. She's a Polish poet. She won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1996. And it's called A Grain of Sand. We call it a grain of sand, but it calls itself neither grain nor sand. It does just fine without a name, whether general, particular, permanent, passing, incorrect, or apt. So the grain of sand exists without calling itself anything. And I think what this poem is saying is that the realm of words and the realm of life are two separate realms. So as much as possible, let yourself live. Let yourself be spacious enough to live out the full range of emotions, which we all have. Again, with the crisis in the Middle East, I feel a lot of emotions. I have some Israeli rabbis in my ancestral lineage. I feel for that. I also feel for the other side. I also feel for every single mother who doesn't feel safe and doesn't know if her children are going to live. It's impossible not to, if you live with an open heart, to not have those emotions. Let yourself live it. Let yourself feel it. Let yourself wish well. But there's no need to try to control it by putting labels on it, because the labels are constructed. The labels are limited. So that's my introduction to self-compassion. Let's actually practice now. Let me guide you through a meditation. So we already did a beautiful 4-7-8 breath. Now we'll follow with relaxation, because you're more self-compassionate self as you relax. And then we'll go into self-kindness. So beginning by closing your eyes. Give yourself a moment with your eyes closed. And as you make this transition from the rest of your day with so much stimulation to eyes closed and stillness, see how much gentleness you can bring towards your own experience as it presents itself to you. Feel a posture of dignity in your body. See what self-friendliness would feel like right now. How can you sit as an act of self-friendliness? Is it putting more clothes on? Is it just gently resting your hands on your lap? Is it having your feet grounded? Get comfortable. Allow your shoulders and your elbows to be soft and heavy. Feel the gentleness of one hand inside the other. And begin by bringing an affectionate awareness to your forehead. Notice how the forehead feels. Maybe there's tension there. Relax your forehead. Relax the eyes. Relax the little muscles around the eyes. Relax your jaw. Soften your neck and your throat. Soften your shoulders. Soften your chest. Relax your belly inside and out. Relax your legs and feet. Feel your legs supported by the chair. Feel your feet supported by the ground. And feel into your whole body, inside and out. Release, soften, relax your whole body. And now notice that you're breathing. Notice the state of your breath. Begin to focus on the feeling of the breath. Just notice the breath as it comes into the nose and as it comes out from the nose. Whenever you're with the breath, you're not with your critical mind. You're not with your judgmental mind. So be with the breath. When you're with the breath, you're connected to yourself and the present moment. So stay with the breath for a few more seconds, just feeling more deeply into the sensation of the breath as it enters the nostrils. And now put both hands to the heart or chest. Let's connect to this heart. Feel the heart. And now acknowledge that there is so much warmth that is at this heart. Send the wish, may this heart be happy. And just like my heart feels pain, or loneliness, or heaviness, or sadness, so does every other heart. Sending the wish, may every heart be happy. Keeping your hand on the heart, set the intention, I release myself from judgment. I can offer myself goodwill. I can give myself compassion in every situation. And from this heart, also send the wish, I release others from judgment. This heart is spacious enough to offer others goodwill. I can give others compassion in every situation. And acknowledge that life is difficult sometimes. Life is challenging a lot of the times. What we can offer ourselves through that is self-compassion. So sending yourself the words, may I be kind to myself. May I take care of myself. May I let myself rest. May I know that I am equally worthy when I'm doing something or when I'm doing nothing at all. May I experience ease of connection, ease of well-being, ease of being on my own side. And setting the intention to offer a loving presence to others. And now you can release the hands back down. And take a deep breath in. Take a deep breath out through your mouth. And coming back from our meditation practice. So that was the meditation. That's another way to train self-compassion daily. And I highly recommend you do this practice daily. We were all trained to not be self-compassionate. The world generally trains us to not be self-compassionate. So I think it takes a daily self-compassion practice to kind of counteract that. Most of us were not raised in environments where we were completely accepted and taught to be kind to ourselves. So the reason we need self-compassion goes back to our earliest roots. If our needs weren't met when we were a child, the child doesn't assume that the world is a terrible place. It assumes that there's something wrong with me. And that turns into a certain program in adulthood that there's something wrong with me. For others, as children, we weren't accepted for who we are, so we put a lot of masks on. And because of those masks, because we were playing a part to be liked, we disconnected from our authentic self. And that becomes a barrier to self-knowledge, to our intuition, to our talents, to how we really feel. And if you grew up in a situation like that, a conflict happens, like the conflict now in the Middle East, and you might feel like you just don't feel anything, or like you're just disconnected from your emotions. So this block to self-compassion, it becomes a block to compassion to others as well. If you're not able to offer warmth to yourself, it's very hard to offer to others. So the result of this gap could be not being honest about how you feel, or not protecting your own boundaries when someone is crossing a boundary. It's equally important to create peace on earth as much as you can, and also to create your boundaries as much as you can. Because protecting yourself, who are you serving? Like, who are you serving when you serve yourself? Let's think very broadly. Any ideas? Who are you serving when you serve yourself? Put ideas in the chat. When you're serving yourself, you are serving life. You're serving life itself. When you're protecting yourself, what you're protecting is life. So you're protecting the life, the creativity that's moving through you. So peace on the outside, but also protecting boundaries within. I think there's plenty of people also very smart, very talented, very kind people who I know who didn't feel good enough in childhood. And they spend the rest of their lives compensating by taking on too much. And because they take on too much, that becomes a trap where they can't do a quality job. And that feeds into the narrative that they're not good enough. And they're stressing about it. And they don't have energy. And you just don't want your life to pass that way. So try to be a loving presence when you're not sure what to do, when you're not sure how to have self-compassion or how to handle all the tragedies in the world that are going on. Let your intention be to be a loving presence, to be genuine and honest and kind, and let everything you do come from a place of wanting to learn, wanting to grow, wanting to find joy, wanting to not cause harm. And if you set this intention that I'm going to be a loving presence, people really gravitate towards you if you offer that to others. And also, what a gift to the world. And again, the world can always use more loving presence as it's coming from you. And you can always use more of that loving presence from yourself. So self-compassion is when you speak to yourself like to someone you care about, even when you're suffering, even when you're overwhelmed. Self-compassion is when you listen to your deepest needs. And when you're really kind to yourself, more kind to yourself when you're stressed than when you're not. And when you start to do that, you have more energy to make a positive difference in the world. You procrastinate less. There's less fear. And that's what I would call freedom. In the Buddhist view, freedom is most valued. But freedom doesn't mean like I can fly off to Paris tomorrow. It's not that kind of freedom. Freedom is when you are free from your inner critic, when your heart is free to connect, when you have real self-compassion, you're free. When you're acting on your intentions, you're free. When you don't have fear, you're free. And sometimes we need a little bit of extra support to access that. And I want to guide a 5-minute meditation from you. I want to guide a 5-minute meditation for you where you'll access an image of compassion, where you'll build an image that's supportive to you in your mind. So think of something or someone that's very, very supportive to you. So in some ways, this is like stealth self-compassion, because you're imagining something supportive to you, and in that way you offer yourself support. It can be your grandma, it could be the Buddha, it could be Mother Mary, it could be a beautiful tree that is the house to so many birds and so many animals and has been there for 300, 400 years. Whatever it is, bring that to mind. Or you could just fantasize. Imagine a fantasy of whatever would be most supportive to you. Whoever, like create in your mind a magical fairy, and this fairy is endlessly supportive to you. So it can be anything. Are we ready? Close your eyes. Take a deep breath in. Take a deep breath out through the mouth. And now create, discover, or bring to mind your compassionate image. This could be a person or a part of nature or a religious figure who feels like compassion to you. So bring to mind an image of someone who would be endlessly supportive to you, or something that would be endlessly supportive to you. And just imagine it emanating goodness towards you. See this source of compassion in front of you. And now feel that in the presence of this compassionate image, you can be completely yourself. There is no judgment, only total acceptance. Taking in this energy of total acceptance. With this compassionate image, let your body release. Let your body release completely. And feel that in the presence of this source of compassion, you can be completely yourself. There is no judgment, only acceptance. Feel that this source of compassion is by your side and on your side. It sees the whole you, understands you unconditionally, doesn't want anything from you, and wants everything for you. Feel that it soothes you and can soothe you no matter what is happening in your heart. And now hear this compassionate image. Say your name with all the warmth in the world. Here, just say your name with tenderness and kindness. Let your name feel safe in their mouth. And hear your compassionate image say to you, may you be happy. Just receiving that wish. Hear the compassionate image say to you, may you be healthy. May you be safe. May you be at ease. It's sending you kindness right from its heart to your heart. Feel this loving energy touch you and warm your heart. Feel it soothing you. And now put your hands on the heart and say for yourself, may I feel safe and protected. May I keep myself safe and protected. Protecting myself, I am protecting life. May I find peace and joy. And may I gently guide myself toward peace and joy. May I be in harmony with all that is within me and around me. May I be a spacious container for all my challenges and handle them with ease. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be safe. And now take a deep breath in. And take a deep breath out through the mouth. And as you feel ready, opening your eyes, coming back. So that was our compassionate image meditation. And something that I hope you take away from this is that no matter what is happening, even if you feel that there's no support in your immediate environment when something is difficult, you can always imagine an image that is supportive to you. And every theology, every world religion has these figures that are endlessly compassionate. They're figures that a person could imagine and receive endless compassion from them. They're in statues, they're on icons, they're in churches, they're in legends, they're in ancient texts, beings of endless compassion. And part of it psychologically is that the mind needs to be able to receive compassion from a source if there's no other source, because we thrive on compassion. And receiving compassion is easier for you to give compassion to others. And of course, the world needs compassion so badly. So much is happening. So much is always happening. The world needs your compassion. But you won't be able to give the world your compassion unless you can find your source of support, your source of compassion towards yourself as well. So to end, I want to read another poem to you. And especially when times are hard, again, I think the inner critic comes up. The inner critic comes up like, I'm not doing enough. The inner critic comes up and says, I am helpless. The inner critic comes up and says, I am small. The inner critic says, I'm not significant enough. The inner critic says, like, I don't matter, basically. That's your inner critic. And yeah, that's not always the case. So I'm going to read you a poem called When We Plant a Rose Seed in the Earth. This is by Timothy Galley. When we plant a rose seed in the earth, we notice that the seed is small, but we do not criticize the seed as rootless or stemless. We treat it as a seed, giving it the water and the nourishment required of a seed. When it first shoots up out of the earth, we don't condemn it as immature and underdeveloped. Nor do we criticize the buds for not being open immediately when they appear. Rather, we stand in wonder at the process taking place and give the plant the care it needs at each stage of its development. The rose is a rose from the time it is a seed to the time it dies. Within it, at all times, it contains its whole potential. It seems to be constantly in the process of change, yet at each state, at each moment, it is perfect as it is. So again, I think the mind will sometimes categorize ourselves as being too insignificant or too powerless. And yet we have our whole potential inside us at all times. And you are meant to be as you are in the stage at which you are. As long as you bring your best intention forward, you bring your integrity forward, you are doing so much good for the world, no matter where you are, especially if you have these compassionate intentions. And I also want to read you something from E. Cummings. And he starts with this idea that when you're thinking or judging or analyzing, you're taking kind of thought processes from a lot of other people. So when you're thinking, you're judging, you're analyzing, you can be a lot of other people. It's not necessarily authentic to you. But when you feel the joy, when you feel the connection, when you feel the heartache, when you feel any emotion, in that moment, you are completely yourself. And in those moments, you're yourself, you're whole. So even if the emotion is negative, if you're whole, you are strong because the emotion is authentic. And then he ends this poem by writing, to be nobody but yourself in a world which is doing its best night and day to make you everybody else means to fight the hardest battle which any human being can fight and never stop fighting. So through these difficulties, hold on to your authenticity, hold on to your intention, hold on to your values, hold on to what matters to you, hold on to the things that make you feel authentic. And it can be hard to not get swept up in a general current of panic and misery and feeling helpless. Feel those things and then still be kind to yourself. Feel those things and then still be compassionate to all others. So I want to end with some wishes to you. May you be happy. Just closing your eyes and saying, I accept. Because if you can accept it from me, you can accept it from yourself and from others. May you be happy. May you have peace in your mind and in your whole being. May you spread peace, bring peace to the world around you. May you receive warmth from the inside and the outside. May there be ease to everything you do. May you feel into the mystery of being alive, the mystery of existing right now, the joy of being alive. May you spread this joy to all others you encounter. And when you're ready, opening your eyes. And I hope that having listened to this, having done these practices, you can give more of a generous, loving presence to others. You can give more of a generous, loving presence to yourself. And that you can look at the hardships, face the hardships, feel through the hardships, look at the adversity that's in the world, but still keep your center, still feel connected to yourself and your feelings. And thank you so much for this opportunity to communicate with you. Thank you so much for listening to the session. I really appreciate it. Hi, my name is Elizabeth. Thank you so much for stopping by my YouTube channel and watching this video. I really appreciate it. There's a new video out every single Friday. So if you go here and click that, you'll subscribe and you'll see all the videos. And if you want to connect outside of YouTube, I do private consultations, and I also do a class every Wednesday and every Sunday, every single week, on happiness, signs of the mind, meditation. They're a lot of fun, and you can get more details below. Let me know what video you want to see next, and I really hope to see you soon.